Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa. 1 second. I'm currently trying to.
You're a dirty little whore, Teresa. Spank me good.
Ooh.
Well, that's the way to do it.
What is this?
Can't wait for the AI to find out how to spank you. I'm sure there's a lot of other people also waiting for AI to find out how to spank them.
Probably.
Most
Maybe
likely.
maybe a little pegging on top.
Ooh. I want
God,
pizza.
we're just all horny.
How do you
right
guys
now,
feel
huh?
about pegging?
I'm good.
I don't want it.
Yeah, I'm not like a fan of the idea.
Morgan
anything.
wants it to happen to me, but I don't want it.
What
How's
does she
that-
gain from this?
How does that make you feel, Adam?
What does she gain out of pegging you? Is she a sadist?
Just
Does she
the
enjoy your
pure-
pain?
Yeah, just the pure satisfaction of seeing me get pegged, I guess. I don't know.
Welcome everyone to the new episode of Drunken Jurors. Chris Watts, part 3, the finale. Take two.
Take two, yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh God, I can't wait to talk about fun topics again.
Yeah. Well, me and you were the only ones here, so
That is true.
Adam is fresh
gets-
ears. So for the first take that we did for everyone, Adam was on the phone the entire time for the first 25 minutes that Nick and I recorded. And finally, by the time Adam came back, he's like, all right, what are we talking about? And we are just like, you know what? Fuck this.
My
We'll
real-
just scrap it.
My
Because he got
realtor
another
was-
phone call once we started.
Yeah, we started. I immediately got a phone call, and I was like, all right, like, I'll be back. It's my realtor. And then I came back about 10 minutes later. She called me again. And I was like, all right.
So part 2, or take 2. Part 3, though.
Part 3, take 2, session 1.
Yeah.
0.5.
Kind of.
Curse of the Black Pearl.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm Jeff.
I'm Adam.
I'm Nick, and I don't have a camera this week. But if you're listening to the audio, this doesn't matter to you. So what I'm saying, I'm just wasting time at this point.
True. And we have a lot to get through.
We do.
Kind of. Ish.
Yeah,
I don't know.
is there?
There's a lot of stuff we don't want to get through.
Yeah, I think I might just be stalling at this point.
I'm drinking Bush Diesel
Oh,
per
God,
the
I
usual.
literally
I-
literally kill someone for a case of Bush.
I am drinking a mixed drink. It is 3 shots of apple smash rum
God.
with stale ginger ale.
How's that?
Honestly, way better than I thought was going to be.
I feel like apple and ginger go together.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought, and it's very good.
It's like apple pie almost. Because
I don't think there's
ginger-
any
gonna-
ginger in apple pie.
And I'm going to let you know it tastes nothing like apple pie.
We can try that sometime, but I don't think
ginger
it's
and
going to go
apple
well.
pie. I feel like the ginger might replace the hit of
Apple?
the cinnamon. Oh,
We'll replace the apple with the ginger.
There we go.
Isn't that like a rutabaga?
Rutabaga? Do you mean
What?
rhubarb?
Rhubarb, yeah, that.
Fucking moron.
I've never had that. Oh, I'm drinking. So I'm drinking Bud Light because that's all Target has. Because Target discriminates against good taste. I currently have a glass of the Real McCoy single blended 12-year-old rum. And before that, I had a glass of Mixers limited release toasted barrel whiskey.
All right, so we left off on part 2 with Chris confessing, saying that Shanann had strangled the kid, so he got into a fit of rage and did the same thing to her, and then gave the location of all the bodies, which was Survey 319. So part 3 here, we're going to go through the finding of the bodies, the autopsies of the bodies, which is the part that neither Nick or I want to go through. And then
You act like I want to go through that. as
no, we're
well.
not saying you do, but we just don't know if you're going to hate it as much as we did. Then we have Nicole's next 3 interviews with the police, which I'm going to sum up into a solid, hopefully 5-minute segment because they are stupid and don't really give any info. And then we got Chris's plea deal, his quote unquote sentencing, and then theories. Well, his prison interview, which I also won't go into much because still not a lot came out of it. But we're gonna have fun. And then theories is what we're gonna end off with, and we're gonna probably have some fun with those because we're gonna need it after such sadness. You guys got anything you want to say about the first couple parts? Anything you want to get out before we go into some absolute garbage? Because now I'm stalling. So my sources for this one is A Deal with the Devil, Discovering Chris Watts, The Facts Part 2. And then also my other source is The Truth Within the Lies, Discovering Chris Watts, The Theories Part 3.
I had Crimea by Orlando. Oh shit, that's the wrong one.
God damn. Yeah, I hate to tell you, but we're not going over that topic today.
All right. My Daddy is a Hero, How Chris Watts Went from Family Man to Family Killer by Lana Derhully. We'll get, if we can talk about it later. I was not a big fan of this book.
I was the Netflix documentary.
Well,
American
I expect
Murder, something like that. I don't remember the
I
name.
expect a full rundown of the entire production cast, Adam.
God damn it! I went through
The
this
production
already.
cast. Chris Watts.
I don't
the
think
police
he produced, I don't
officers.
think he had anything to do with it. But
You could say he wrote the story though. He was a screenwriter.
American Murder, The Family Next Door.
Yeah, I was close.
Were you?
On the afternoon of August 15, 2018, while Tammy and Graham were interrogating Chris Watts, the other members of the investigation team made their way to Survey 319. According to Chris's GPS, he drove to this well site after leaving his house on the morning of August 13th, which is the day that they were killed and quote unquote went missing. They met with an Anadarko employee who escorted them down to the well site, which was fenced in with barbed wire and contained a wellhead and a separator and storage tanks on a gravel pad. So at around 3:30 p.m., they deployed an unmanned drone to scan the area and obtain video feeds, as well as multiple photographs. They noticed that in the brush to the south of the pad, they located what appeared to be a sheet lying on the ground. And then when they approached the sheet, and they discovered a bare area of dirt that appeared to have been recently disturbed. And then after finding that, they left the area to obtain permission to search, because at this time they didn't have a warrant to be able to search it. They only had permission. They had to get permission to actually search. So around 4:15 p.m., they received consent from the owner of the land to allow them to search the area and collect evidence. So they go in, they approach it, take the stained sheet into evidence, and they realized that it was a fitted bed sheet, and it had the same pattern of the sheets that were in the Watts bedroom, in that wonderful just pile of shit bedding thrown to the side. There were also 2 garbage bags in the brush close to the sheet, which were also left recently. So then they issued a search warrant. And then right after that, they were informed that Chris had confessed to killing his wife and dumping her body and his 2 daughters' bodies at the well site. So then they called on the coroner. At this point, one of the detectives climbs the stairs to the top of the holding tanks and manages to peer inside of the opening with a flashlight. He couldn't really see in there very well because of the gas fumes, but he noted that the openings were small. They were actually just 8 inches across, and there were numerous strands of blonde hair stuck to the rim. They then made the arrangements to drain the tanks the following morning, and the police put security on site for overnight. And oh god, we start getting into the downfall. Also, by the way, disclaimer, graphic, quote unquote graphic content. We're going to be getting into some very gross stuff, especially with the autopsies. So
If you're eating, I would not.
And people with a weak stomach, be wary, maybe skip ahead.
Yep. I'm sure we can do like a skip to this timestamp.
Or
that involves me finding out the timestamp after doing a lot of editing.
I would say just mark the times, like the time code in the description.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I
Yes.
don't know why I'm speaking. I got nothing to input in here.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
What a guy.
Welcome to the Nick Show.
Absolutely useful.
The Nick Show happens during the rest of the show.
So, yeah. See everyone next week.
Thanks, Nick. So upon the coroner's arrival, they proceeded to excavate the disturbed area of dirt. Shanann's body was found just 3 inches below the surface because,
Lazy.
why take the time to put it any further down? She was lying face down in a kneeling position. Her arms were outstretched in front of her and her feet pulled up underneath and behind her and directed up towards the top of the grave.
And this is where I get to go into my depressing part.
Yeah, her chest and face primarily were facing down to the ground while her back was oriented up. Her head was towards the west while her feet were towards the east. Her left arm was extended to the east alongside her head. She was wearing a blue pair of underwear and a light colored shirt. The depth of the grave when the body was removed was approximately 27 inches deep. The coroner took possession of her body and, sent it to where it has to go to do the autopsy.
My turn to make everyone angry.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll do it during the autopsy or whenever it's brought up. So at 8:30 a.m. on the 16th of August of 2018, Tammy Lee met with multiple Anadarko employees as well as several police officers at the site to recover the bodies of Bella and Cece. They brought in a hazmat unit to obviously do it because it's oil and all that wonderful shit. So they did, your safety briefing, and then they were informed that the east tank contained approximately 9 feet of crude oil and the west one approximately 1.4 feet. So they proceed of emptying the east tank first because it's bigger. So they did a grid search while they waited. They located the they were trying to locate children's blankets and stuffed animals that Chris had mentioned leaving at the gravesite. They couldn't be located. I'm assuming they probably ended up in the fucking tank and got like dissolved or fucking destroyed or some shit.
Probably. I think they in the doc they said that like the girls were like holding on to their blankies at the time.
Yeah.
That makes sense to make them feel safer. So
yeah, it's probably also possible. He probably also used them to smother them. So it took approximately 6 hours to drain the first tank. Then they pulled away the manway cover. And the members of the hazmat unit entered and recovered a female child, obviously, which they later identified as Cece. She was covered in oil and was removed from the tank in a white decontamination box. And she was wearing a pink nightgown as well as a pull-up diaper. And then once outside the tank, Dr. Michael Burson, who was a forensic pathologist, patted her stomach area down with absorbent pads, and Cece appeared to have skin slippage, which we will get into later, and was wrapped in a white sheet and laid inside the open body bag.
Which one was Cece?
The younger one. She was the one that was 3. Then they recover Bella's body. Basically same thing, just later in the day. She was at the bottom of the west tank, and she was wearing a pink multicolored shirt and shorts. Now we get into the wonderful, and I mean that in the most sarcastic way, the autopsies. Yet again, disclaimer, this will be kind of graphic and pretty gross depending on how you view stuff.
I won't try any way you view stuff.
Yeah.
This is pretty bad.
So we'll try to get through it together. And I'll try to skip a whole bunch of gruesome stuff. But so 10 a.m. the next day, so the 17th of August, Agent Tammy Lee visits McKee Medical Center to attend the autopsies of Shanann, Bella, and Cece. So the people doing the autopsies were Dr. Michael Burson and his assistant Joey Weiner were present to perform the autopsies. Also attending was Weld County Coroner Carl Blesch, Weld County Chief Deputy District Attorney Steve Wren, Weld County Deputy District Attorney Patrick Roche, FBI Special Agent Graham Coder, and CBI Crime Scene Analyst Eric Bryant. So the first autopsy performed was on Shanann Watts. Shanann, yet again, was wearing a purple/gray t-shirt, black bra, and a blue thong. Obviously, those were taken into evidence. Shanann appeared to also have a large amount of skin slippage, and her aniotonic sac was protruding from her vaginal area. Nick, would you like to correct how I said that and also now go into the worst part of this entire thing?
Yeah. So when they found her
Also,
body,
before we do this, Ferda to everyone.
Oh, this is gonna suck.
Oh, yeah, especially because this is blue corn whiskey. So
I'm drinking really good rum.
I put too much rum in that.
that's not good.
I'm warm now.
Same. I just had a
Chasing
flush through of like I now have the goosebumps because it rushed through my body.
I'm chasing this with Bud Light, so I'm upset.
Yeah, that's
What are you, fucking
Stupid? Yes. Okay.
Nick, continue on.
So the when they found Shanann's body, she had what was called a grave birth. So their child Nico, right? That's what they were gonna name the son.
I think
Nico?
I
Nico?
never got anything.
I
of
think it was
that in
Nico.
mind.
They were gonna name him Nico. He was essentially out, and that it was at that point in the pregnancy where if he had been born premature, they would have put him in prenatal care, but he would have survived with almost all likelihood. But because
He was like 15 weeks at that point, right?
it would have been enough where he's definitely a premature birth, but it's
Probably some
survivable.
difficulties, but yeah.
Yeah, it's survivable. So basically, the unborn child and the embryonic sac and everything just kind of fell out because of decomp and the muscles relaxing, and just was kind of just there next to her. Well, it wasn't next to her because the dirt kept it in, but it was out. Like she gave birth after death to an unborn child. I am now getting angry, and I am very tired of talking about this. As this is the second time I've had to go into it. I don't.
Well,
this is something that makes me very upset.
I'm about to mention the next thing that's going to now push Nick over the edge, but we will try to push past it. The fetus and that amniotic sac were removed and collected as evidence.
This makes me incredibly upset. I know, I understand. Without getting into the political and without getting into everything about it, this to me makes me incredibly upset at the state of Colorado that they tagged a unborn child as evidence like they would tag a computer. This upsets me. I'm sure it upsets these two to different degrees and on different levels, but this is something that really upsets me personally.
And that's where we'll leave it.
Yeah.
However everyone feels about it.
I'm sure we're all upset.
Yeah, it's a shitty thing no matter what.
Yeah.
A child died.
Yep.
Multiple children died, actually, but an unborn child died also.
Yes.
And the mother.
Yes. A lot of dead people.
Yes. Bad things.
Yes.
So also during the autopsy, Dr. Burson advised that Shanann's hyoid bone was not broken. Hyoid bone being in your neck. Most times when
you're manually strangled, it is typically broken because that
the amount of pressure it takes to strangle
if you do the bone song, the femur is connected to the coccyx or whatever.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, we'll skip past that.
That's the one bone that's not connected, and that's like the key sign of manual strangulation is that being cracked or bruised or fractured.
So although he pointed out bruising to the soft tissue on the right side of the bone, he also noted bruising to the muscles and tissues in Shanann's neck. The doctor advised he did not know any other trauma to Shanann's body and found no evidence of disease. He also he advised that her preliminary cause of death was asphyxiation due to manual strangulation, which is the official autopsy report. And then I have the full autopsies for each. not really gonna go into them. I'm gonna do the highlights. Maybe with the kids, I'll go
For
into a
those who
little bit
don't,
of
for
stuff.
those who don't know, autopsies are incredibly long and detailed.
They should be.
Yes, yeah, but also there's
But
a lot
they
of stuff
are,
that
yes,
we
yeah.
don't
We
really
don't
need to
know.
go over.
Thing a lot of because they go over everything and the skull, the brain, the everything, and like there's a lot of things that are like everything's normal, and there's no point in us going into that. I'm just going to highlight the things that were wrong. Her toxicology came back, whatever. She did have a blood alcohol concentration of 0.128 grams per 100 milliliter. We looked this up last time Nick and I did this.
She
Your
definitely had
body,
a drink.
yeah, she had a drink, but your body does also produce still,
Yeah,
like after death, and it creates some sort of.
It
blood
wouldn't be
alcohol.
surprising that if she had like a. It's not unimaginable that she had a glass of wine when she got home or at some point during that evening.
I could see if there was some kind of argument to just try and de-stress herself a little bit, or Chris could have even done like put alcohol into something she was.
It's kind of hard to slip someone alcohol
to kill her.
I don't think it's. I've never heard of alcohol being slipped like a roofie.
You should start drinking with me more often.
Okay. Weird flex.
Wild.
All right, so that's really about it for Shanann. Next, we'll move on to Bella. So she was the second autopsy performed. Bella was dressed in, by the way, I'm just reading straight from the transcripts. So this is pretty much just word for word. Bella was dressed in a pink nightgown covered in butterflies and a pair of underwear. These were obviously put into evidence. Bella also had a large amount of skin slippage. I don't know. We haven't explained it yet, but we'll explain it yet again. Graphic content disclaimer here. Skin slippage happens after death and it is basically this like skin coming like detaching from the muscle, and it can like move around more. It's really weird, especially since they were in oil. Basically the skin can kind of almost just slide off. Nick, if you have anything, I think that's the best I can.
No, so the oil would preserve, like, and stop insects from starting to consume. But there is still natural decomposition in the body from cells breaking down, even in the vacuum of oil. There's still bacteria, there's still cell degradation, and that would be enough to cause the first couple layers of skin to start to just slip off like a glove.
She had been x-rayed and there was concern she might have suffered a broken jaw, which is thought to, at the time, thought that maybe like from this, like he smothered her and like broke her jaw on the thing. But these x-rays were sent to a pediatric radiologist at Children's Hospital, who advised it appeared to be gas in the area of the jaw, not an actual fracture, which could have been caused by the oil and her being like the fumes and everything. It also appeared Bella had some scrapes to her buttocks and the tops of her shoulders, thought to be where she was too wide to enter the opening of the tank without force, which is what happened because, yet again, remember, 8-inch opening. This is a child. Dr. Burson also pointed out the following, that Bella's frenulum, skin connecting the top lip to the gum was torn, which created a large hole. The inside of her gums and inner lip also appeared bruised, and it appeared she had bit into her tongue. Her injuries were consistent with hard downward pressure on her nose and mouth. Bella's death was violent. It appeared she struggled to get away.
She was the only one who did.
Yeah. Dr. Burson advised Bella's preliminary cause of death was asphyxiation due to manual smothering. He did not note any bruising or injury to her neck, which is in the official autopsy.
Do we have any idea the order that he killed the girls?
I'm pretty sure it went
Bella
and then Cece, because Cece was easier because she was younger.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
I think it was the book I read. I think it was the other way around.
And
it could have been.
Both make sense to me because like the younger one will be easier, but if they have evidence to show that Bella was probably fighting back to like a certain extent, like it could be like trying to fight to get away as well. Obviously, like she's probably fighting to get away because she was being strangled to death.
Yeah.
But I feel like there would be more fight in her if she just saw her sister get killed.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it's still, I mean, fighting, natural reflex. It's just because I feel like I'm not 100% on this. Don't take my exact word, but I feel like there was somewhere that I read when he talked about Bella dying that it was extremely difficult because of how much she fought back.
Yeah. She also, because she's the oldest, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, she
4. Would have a better comprehension of what's happening and would be able to kind of understand that she's in danger.
All right, so the third and final autopsy was of Cece. Cece was dressed in a pink nightgown and Minnie Mouse underwear and a pull-up diaper. The nightgown and underwear were collected as evidence. Cece also had a large amount of skin slippage. She didn't appear to have any obvious signs of injury or bruising to her neck area. There also didn't appear to be any injury to her mouth or face. Dr. Bruson advised Cece's preliminary cause of death was asphyxiation due to manual smothering. During the autopsies, Dr. Bruson measured the hips and shoulder width of both Bella and Cece and advised the smallest width on Cece at 9.5 inches. The opening of the hatch of the oil tank was only 8 inches in diameter. So the smallest opening on their entire bodies was 9.5 inches. So like none of their bodies were meant to go through this.
The question we spent 5 minutes on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But that the smallest opening or part of their body was 9.5 inches.
Yep. That's an inch and a half that he's got to just fucking break.
How much time do you think he took
Well,
to be able
also,
to fucking push them in?
Well,
He's not large.
Hold
but...
on. I just like look at ourselves, and this is our
oh god, what's happening with
and then
Adam?
We can do this. Oh, like we can go from here to this. Like that cuts off a decent amount.
All right, we're done with autopsies. We're done with that.
Woo!
Absolute bullshit. I'm gonna pour me another glass though, because now we get to go into his absolute bullshit plea deal.
Jeff, treat yourself with a little bit more blue corn.
No, I'm out of blue corn.
Oh.
It was only one sample. You dumbass.
You should go get some.
Oh yeah, I'll just go get some blue corn. Am I going Texas single malt or Texas rye 100 proof?
Oh, 100 proof. You're getting slushed.
Oh, that's funny because the Texas single malt was 53% alcohol.
Shit. Jesus.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. Go fuck yourself.
Absolutely not.
You absolute buffoon. Chris Watt's plea deal. So on November 6th of 2018, Chris filed a written waiver and a guilty plea deal. God, I fucking hate this. The plea deal said that Chris agreed to this in order to avoid the death penalty, and Shanann's family approved it. Shanann's mother reportedly said, "He made the choice to take those lives, but I don't want to be in the position to take his." However, as soon as this happened, the investigation was immediately halted, leaving a ton of unanswered questions, which is why we're kind of in the spot we are today with all the theories, and he still hasn't opened up about it because he knows he doesn't fucking have to.
Man, that family is such better people than I am.
Yeah. So, oh God. So,
I'm actually surprised Colorado has death penalty.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Also,
They
no, I don't think they. No, they do. Why
They
did
had
the
to.
fucking no? Why the fuck didn't the Aurora shooter get fucking murked? Mental
insanity,
illness.
Yeah. He wasn't competent to staying trial.
Yep.
Oh,
So
I'm scared.
we're going to go through the counts of his plea deal. So, count 1, murder in the first degree. So the minimum sentence is life in prison without parole. Maximum, death. Count 2, murder in the first degree. Yet same thing. Count 3, murder in the first degree. Yet again, same thing. Count 4, murder in the first degree. Same thing. If you're wondering where the hold on. And count 5, murder in the first degree. Where he got 5, I don't know.
Definitely 4.
Yeah.
But in his plea deal, it has 5.
Huh.
Did they maybe count the fetus twice?
No, that wouldn't make sense. I'm amazed they would have counted it.
Maybe
once at all.
because it came out of the body, they counted it as a person afterwards.
That does not make sense.
No, it
That
doesn't.
would
But
still
I'm
be-
trying to
that'd still be
fucking.
one.
I don't-
Props to them for doing
Yeah,
it. They
whatever.
logged him as a piece of evidence, but we'll move past that. And
Count 6. Unlawful termination of pregnancy in the first degree.
Yep.
16 to 48 years confinement with the Colorado Department of Corrections. A sentence to the Department of Corrections requires an additional mandatory parole period of 5 years for the crimes committed prior to July 1st and 3 years for the crimes committed after July 1st. Don't know why specifically those days. Then there's a fine of $5,000 to $1 million, maybe assessed in addition or to in lieu of any sentence of imprisonment. Count 7, tampering with a deceased human body, 4 to 12 years of confinement. Sufficient mitigating circumstances may reduce the sentence to 2 years and up to a maximum of 24. Count 8, tampering with the deceased human body again. Count 9, same thing, tampering with a deceased human body. So those are his 9 charges. The agreement is defendant will plead guilty to all counts set forth. So he pleads guilty to all 9. Obviously he agrees, and that means that now the death penalty is off the table. Let's get into a little bit of something here. It's a little bit of a theory here. I'm going to read a section from the book of the author.
Theory.
A section from the book by the authors. I'm just going to read it how it is. So there are a lot of opinions on this plea deal, one of them being that the plea deal was taken on unlawfully. It certainly seemed to have been dealt with faster than usual in such a high-profile case. Chris was never made to confess the entire truth, to explain that the hows and whys in their entirety. We, the public, didn't get to hear what caused this once seemingly perfect husband and father to perform one of the most heinous acts. We can't be the only ones who felt cheated by this.
To be fair, it is not our problem.
Okay.
Also, I have my notes.
I like.
Yes. Now we get also the psychological stuff from Nick, which we will get into here with the sentencing.
But do I want them to have this stuff, and should it like released to us, and should it all have been released to us? Yeah, but at the same time, like, I'm not mad about it. I'm like, whatever.
You should be, because I'm mad about it.
I don't need to know everything.
After the amount of time I put into this fucking goddamn series,
well,
I'm
okay.
pissed off that I got nothing out of it.
So yes, there's that aspect of it, but I don't necessarily feel like I personally deserve an answer to this stuff. Like, it's not something that they owe me. I had no part in this.
I'm a firm believer that there's just evil in the world, and Chris Watts is evil. So that's my explanation, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So I want to go into sentencing, but there's not a lot of stuff to go into. I mean, obviously Shanae's mom and dad talk, and so do Chris's mom and dad, but it's pretty basic stuff, and it's kind of just even more depressing because I hate listening to like victim statements and like that stuff because it's just depressing. I mean, like, I get the point of it. I get it. Like, you get stuff off your chest in the open to the person who did the crimes. I get it. I understand why they're there. I do believe that they should be a thing. I don't personally like going into them or talking about them because I don't think there's a whole lot. And also from what I've read of them, it's not like anything new comes out of it. Like, obviously they're pissed off with Chris. Like, what? Like, and then his parents are like, oh, why would our child do, like, pretty straightforward shit. Like, no one expected this coming, like, blah blah blah. Like,
it's a lot of go fuck yourself, we're disappointed in you and we hate you. And every once in a while, not in this situation, we forgive you.
No, there's kind of some of that. Like, no one straight up says like Chris is a shit human being. Like, no one straight up says that. It's more of a like the situation is shitty, but we don't blame the person kind of a thing. I don't know. If you want to go into it, read it on your own. I don't want to go into it. I don't think it's all that worth it. Also, that means we're not really going to get into his sentencing because nothing comes out of it because he did a plea deal. So he just gets sentenced. He just gets all of the pretty much the maximum he can for everything except for the death penalty.
To be fair, a trial like this would have cost the state of Colorado upwards of $5 million.
I mean, yeah.
Would you like my professional, unprofessional, semi-professional?
Yeah, if you, yeah. I mean, so to make up for, the fact that sentencing's not that all that interesting, and I want to give you guys all the details and really go into stuff, but like if we do that, this is going to be like a 7-part series, and it's going to get boring after a while. And I don't want to do that. I want to hit on the highlights. I want you guys to get the main information and maybe a little bit more interesting things that maybe you didn't get from watching a documentary or whatever. But I feel like me going into the nitty gritty, just stuff that you can find on your own that isn't interesting in the first place for us to talk about isn't worth me going into. Like, because I'll lose Adam 17,000 times during all those recordings. So,
yes.
But yeah, I mean, to make up for it, we'll have Nick break down the psychological eval of Chris Watts, which is what his book was about.
First off, my book has a psychological breakdown by a sociology person. Sorry, I don't.
Perfect.
I don't consider sociology to be a legitimate science, and I will die by that grave. I will die on that hill. Sociology is not a legitimate science, unlike psychology. This book upsets me on many levels. Also, I wrote down multi-level marketing company Lamau, because it's a pyramid scheme. I just wanted to reiterate that. But this book, it goes into the idea that anyone can be like Chris, and this is really fucking stupid. If you worry that people
sounds like Ratatouille, where anyone can cook.
Yeah. If you worry that people closest
Yeah,
to
but
you,
anyone could cook.
that is true.
Anyone can murder.
If you worry that the people closest to you, excluding if you have severe depression and severe anxiety,
so we're out of it.
That worry is idiotic. No,
We're
like worse than us, Adam.
I think you underestimate how bad I was.
That's like never eating because you're worried you're gonna choke or get food poisoning. It's just a really stupid
I didn't worry
idea.
about that. I accepted that.
If you're worried that the people closest to you are going to be murderers or just complete psychopaths who will just murder you, you're walking around idiotically. It's completely irrational. It's completely stupid. Like it's more stupid than being afraid of spiders or being afraid of swimming in the kiddie pool. But that was a rip on the book. The book also goes into the psychological breakdown of Chris, and it basically claims that Chris was a narcissist. I don't believe Chris was a narcissist. I'd say he had a handful of narcissistic tendencies. He never.
I don't think he's a full blown.
No.
Yeah.
He never showed a desire to always be center of attention, and he never claimed to be superior to everyone, which are key points.
It was very much the exact opposite.
Exactly. Those are key tenets of narcissistic personality disorder.
He seemed more, because the thing that like counteracts that is the amount that Shanann was on social media and posting their lives.
Another thing.
She might have been a narcissist.
So the psychology background. The Bible for psychology and clinical psychology diagnosing is the DSM-5. And granted, I am not a personal big fan of the DSM-5. I believe it has been very politicized, and I don't like it.
DSM-4 was better.
Yes, DSM-4 was much better.
But DSM-5 does have updated new.
Yes. I think that
terms.
I think most legitimate psychologists and psychologists who take themselves seriously use both the DSM-5 and the DSM-4. The DSM-5, there is no such thing as psychopathy. There's no such thing as sociopathy. Those are colloquial terms that people use to kind of lump in narcissistic personality disorder, neuroticism, other tenets of the dark triad, which are neuropathy, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. That's a whole thing that I wrote a 20-page paper on that, and I don't feel like getting into it.
Can you give a quick rundown of what each three of those were?
Neuroticism is basically it's almost like depression, but like malignant depression, I guess. If you'd consider depression benign, neuroticism is like malignant depression, where it affects your personality, it affects your emotions, but in an aggressive, irritated way. Psychopathy is you don't feel emotion. It's again that colloquial term that is not in the DSM, but is still used a lot by psychiatrists and people in the psychological community. And then there is Machiavellianism, which is the manipulation of others. In the best way, it's named after Niccolo Machiavelli from 1500s Italy. I don't know why it's named after him, but it's called Machiavellianism. And then the idea is that those three things create the perfect violent person in tandem. And typically, if you look at Ted Bundy, if you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, they all had those three things. That they had the full triad.
Jeffrey Dahmer, I don't think fully fits that as much as, like, if you went into like Jeffrey Dahmer's a weird thing that we might get into later on a podcast.
Honesty, I don't know that much about Dahmer.
I don't think if you look into Dahmer's like prison interviews and stuff, it doesn't. It's a thing for a different podcast, but he doesn't fully fit it. I would say like John Wayne Gacy and Bundy.
John Wayne Gacy is a perfect example of the dark triad. Chris Watts had none of these. He had zero ability to manipulate anyone other than Nicole. And it was just basic lying. I'd say he had a decent amount of neuroticism. But I
think he lacked really the big parts.
Yeah, he lacked and then so narcissistic personality disorder, the big things are center of attention, the claiming to be superior, it always has to be about me. That was none of Chris. He was a little bit manipulative. He didn't really know how to communicate emotions, but those are like underlying things.
But also, that's a thing that a lot of people go through. Like, some people just suck at putting getting their emotions out and stuff like that.
It's gonna annoy me if I don't. Neurotic. If I don't give you a proper definition of neuroticism. Neuroticism has been considered fundamental personality trait. It's part of the Big Five. Such people are thought to respond worse to stressors and are more likely to interpret ordinary situations such as minor frustrations as appearing hopelessly difficult. We're all neuroticists. I am most certainly neurotic. I would self-diagnose myself as neurotic.
I mean, same.
Yeah.
So the thing with neuroticism is clarifying it from depression, because it is completely separate from depression. That's neuroticism. So I think there is an interesting case that could be made that Chris had narcissistic personality disorder, but it was so suppressed by Shannon's personality that it never really showed. I personally don't buy it, because he never showed signs of narcissistic personality disorder in early life and before meeting Shanann. I think that Chris had some psychopathic tendencies. I think he had certain tendencies for narcissistic personality disorder. My personal belief is that he lacked the ability to really understand and embrace emotion. He was incredibly neurotic, but I think that came in a large part from his father and his father's inability to convey and properly teach him how to show emotion.
Can you describe the difference between neurotic and narcissist?
So narcissist is the pursuit of gratification from vanity or egotistic in admiration of one's idealized self-image and attributes. So it's me. I am the best. I am the greatest. There's no one better than me, and no one acknowledges that except for me. That is narcissism. Neuroticism is, again, the inability to handle basically overreacting on certain stressors that a normal person would react to neuroticism. If a person without neuroticism opens their car door or has someone ding their car door getting out of their car, that person is like, all right, annoying, whatever, exchange information, it's not a big deal. Someone neurotic is going to flip shit and lose their mind.
That it? That what we're going into?
That's
Okay.
that's the difference between the two.
All right. I mean,
And then again, of the, I'm gonna go back to the Dark Triad. Chris had very limited signs of psychopathy. He didn't show any signs of Machiavellianism. I'd say there's a very strong case that he was extremely neurotic.
Okay.
That is your unprofessional, professional, semi-professional, not professional at all opinion. I am not a licensed
I take it.
psychiatrist.
Thanks for the disclaimer. We needed it
But I am a minor in forensic psychology.
before we get sued for like $15.
Yep.
By Chris
Which we-
Watts.
Yeah, which we collectively have between the three of us.
Honestly.
So that means we can't record on Zoom for one whole month.
Shit.
God, fuck. We're screwed.
Back to Discord.
Absolutely not.
So I'm gonna mention it here, but I'm gonna probably put a huge thing at the beginning. We forgot to go over Nicole's 3 police interviews, but also,
It was so
but
useless.
also, yeah, they
So's
gave
Nicole.
yeah, they gave no information to fucking anything. Literally, we gained nothing new. It's nothing new, nothing fucking worthwhile from it. So we will skip those. Next is Chris does a prison interview later in, it's like 2019.
We get nothing from that either.
But at this, hold on. Yes, that's what I'm getting into. You get nothing from it. Also,
And what did he do that for the documentary or after the documentary?
No,
I think the documentary was
it-
18.
I don't even think it was that, but it was. It had to be that, or the documentary just didn't use it, but because nothing new comes out of it, nothing worthwhile comes out of it. But Tammy, Coder, and one other person like go and talk to him, and one of our listeners wanted us to get into it. I'm gonna give you a brief explanation. There are letters that people say they have received from Chris Watts while he's in prison. After a while, he got moved into Wisconsin because he was treated so poorly in Colorado prisons, which is understandable from the fact that, it was committed in Colorado. Everyone fucking knew about it, and everyone fucking hated him because he killed 2 fucking kids, which does not go well in prison. So
Don't
he ended
fuck
up getting
with kids.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great way to get your ass beat in prison.
It's a great way to get your ass killed in prison.
It's a great way to get your ass beat and killed just anywhere.
That's true.
True,
Yeah.
but
Leave
Don't
kids
fuck
alone.
with kids.
PSA.
don't fuck with kids.
PSA.
Once they
Leave
once
kids
they-
alone.
once they turn 18, do whatever the fuck you want. Kill them, but not before. Don't fuck
We
with
do
kids.
not
You hate to-
condone
Us
any-
I got you.
Us
Okay.
people at You Hate to See It podcast do not condone the statements made by Adam Filippiak, and we do not approve of murder after the age of 18, and or before the age of 18.
We don't
Just
approve of murder.
Just don't kill people. It makes everyone a little happier.
So there are people saying that they got letters from Chris Watts. There's people saying they know Chris Watts, that they had sexual encounters with him. And basically they go in, and one of the huge topics is them talking about that type of stuff of like, did you have affairs with anyone else? Did you have sexual relations with anyone else? And
Not
it was
sexual
always no.
relations with that
and-
woman.
The thing about it is there are some letters that people say they received from Chris Watts, like, and they have pictures of, it says on the address, like the return address, like Chris Watts returned to wherever. And from what I did from research looking into that is there's no proven way of, there's nothing that says that actually happened. So I can't believe it's true. not saying it's false, but there's nothing that shows that it's actually true other than just the pictures people took. But anyone can stuff an envelope, throw a stamp on it, send it somewhere, get it returned to them because it doesn't go anywhere with whatever they put on it. There are a lot of questions about him having gay relations with people.
Ooh.
That's not something I expected to see.
Which obviously he denies.
He's in prison.
Yeah,
That makes sense. It checks out. He killed kids. I'm sure he's been fucked.
there was a guy who basically said that he met Chris on a dating app and they had a casual, quick sexual encounters
A dating
with him.
app. We know exactly which one.
Grinder, yeah.
I was gonna say it, but
I was gonna say plenty of fish.
hey, man,
But
I
Chris
haven't,
denies
I
all
haven't
that
used
stuff.
that in a year.
They talked to Chris for 2 to way more hours. I actually can't remember because I watched so many long ass fucking things with this. Nothing new or no new information comes out. I think he, not 100% because I can't fully remember at this moment because I'm very intoxicated. If he actually did say that he killed Bella and Cece, we know he pleaded to it, but I can't remember if in this interview that's the only big thing that came out is that he agreed to it. But I'm not 100% and I don't actually think he did, but I feel like I remember hearing that. But outside of that, really nothing new or interesting comes out other than they bring up people saying that they have had affairs with him or he had affairs with them and shit like that, but nothing that can be concrete proven. And he also they talk to him about if he has contacted Nicole, and he hasn't because Nicole won't answer anything, and he also doesn't. For a very long time, he didn't even try to reach out because he thought she didn't want to, and also he didn't know how to go through it other than through a lawyer. But he said something about her lawyer just wouldn't tell her about it and that type of stuff. But they hadn't communicated since then. And also, I haven't really found anything about Nicole since then. I'm assuming her life's not great. It might be a little bit better now. It's been 4 years now. I mean, might be a little bit better, but I would assume probably not.
The documentary probably put it right back into a shithole situation because people are assholes in general. So as soon as that comes out, everyone who had no idea this was a thing is now jumping on the bandwagon. So,
right, yeah. So really, all we got left is theories. Before we get into the theories, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. Obviously, Chris Watts is a liar. Do we think in any way, shape, or form that the investigation was flawed? No. Even if we don't think it is, explain why you don't think it is. We'll go into not huge into it, but let's get into it a little bit.
I'm trying to remember everything. I do remember that I felt that there was some lackluster performances by certain officers, but I can't remember the details of it. Was in part 1 that something happened that I was like, wow, that's kind of not.
They allowed him to walk through the house with them, but yet again they can't tell him that he's not allowed to. So and yet again they couldn't tell him not to be in his house, so he got a whole night to clean and destroy evidence if there was any. I don't think that the investigation itself at any point was flawed. I think they did what they, with the scenario they were given
at the time. The investigation was legal. That's the problem is I don't have my problem with the investigation is things that I wish they wouldn't have done, which would have been illegal for them to say, don't let you, you can't be in this house, things of that nature that they can't say. Which is just more on
but they didn't ever do that to him.
Yeah,
until they went into the actual investigation, which they were like, "Do you have a friend you can stay with?" or something like that.
And then there's the only other issue I ever had with any part of the investigation was the interrogation.
Well, we're gonna leave that out of. We're gonna go into that separately. We're just talking about the initial them showing up and then before he confesses or his interviews. I don't think there's anything that they did technically wrong at all. I think they actually handled it really well when going to his house off the first initial 911 call and then the following day showing up with the cadaver dogs.
And going,
I don't think anything.
You're innocent until proven guilty, and that's what it was. This was just a situation that in hindsight, like, you wish you could have not done certain things, but that would have been illegal at the time.
So me personally, even the atrocity that this was, I am still of firm mind and belief that it's better 10 guilty men go free than one innocent be punished. I know that's not as popular now, but I'm still of firm belief in that. Even though this is one of the worst crimes a man can commit, I'd rather all people that do something like this.
Outside of, actually, I don't know where I would rank this out of the ones we've done, because I was gonna say besides Armin Meaves, but Armin Meaves actually, I think this would rank above it, because Armin Meaves, the person was consenting, it was just still illegal.
It was just gross.
It was gross and illegal, very gross and yet illegal. But also, I think Michelle Nodick, what she did is a little bit worse, but that's just me personally. But
so I think Michelle is probably worse because Chris
she did it for 3 kids' entire lives.
Well, yeah,
lives, but
here's the thing, like, it's Chris did it this one instance. He had this one instance of being a very bad human being, where Michelle was mentally torturing and emotionally torturing
and
physically torturing these people for extended amounts of times and then killing them. At least Chris, which is awful to say, but at least Chris just killed them.
Yeah.
Like, the mental...
It all happened within, what, maybe like 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, like the torture aspect and then killing them, like, those are 2 very bad things, where Chris has only done 1 very bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any botched thing with the confession and interviews. I don't think them interviewing him or giving him doing the polygraph. I mean, he voluntarily did all those things up until the confession. The only thing I find sketchy was the way that they got his attention away from his father saying he needed a lawyer. It's sketchy, but it's also legal. But I personally find it a little bit but it's not illegal.
I don't remember who she was, but that female interrogator,
Tammy Lee, I believe.
Yeah, she, like, I mean, I am a believer of you're innocent until proven guilty. And in the episode that we talked about this interrogation, I mentioned, like, you are making an assumption that he is guilty right now, and you are leading him into confessing based on the fact that you think he's guilty. Just the way she handled it, it worked out. If she handles this a completely different situation, like a different situation, a similar way, and it doesn't work out, you are very much in the wrong.
Because of this is why it is very important to know your rights and know how to handle being talked to by a police officer.
Chris fucked up a lot.
I want police to be able to successfully do these things. Yes, I want criminals to be stopped. Yes, I want murderers to be put in jail and these types of crimes to be brought to justice. But at the same time, it is incredibly important that you, the average person, knows your rights, and knows that the Constitution is your friend. And
so a huge thing about
very
that,
idiotic to throw away your rights, which is what
so a huge thing about it is your Miranda rights aren't. So everyone because of crime shows, everyone thinks that when you are arrested, your Miranda rights are read to you. That's not the case.
That has a lot to do with when are you actually arrested. There's a very fine point between you are brought in for questioning and you are now under arrest. That is why if you ask, "Hey, am I under arrest?" No, I'm gonna go have lunch somewhere else. Leave. You can leave at any point as long as you are not under arrest.
Well, that's a thing about fucking the Punte, the boarding house killer, the one we just did before this, I think. I don't know. It's been a while now, it seems like. That's why she got away. It's because she technically wasn't under arrest, which is a weird thing from the fact that they found a body in your backyard, but yet they don't have any proof that she did it.
It was the 80s.
And she's like, I want to go have lunch down here. And they said, yeah, she technically wasn't under arrest. Nope. She could leave.
No, so I mean, so for me, this is like a scary situation to be in terms of like looking at Chris, looking at myself. I have Asperger's. I am not like, I don't think I would. I've like, thankfully I've never had to go through the situation, but I don't think if I found out that someone close to me, family, children, stuff had died, I probably wouldn't be crying either. I probably would show zero emotion as if I didn't care, which is not true. I would care. So like
probably have an alibi.
Well, yeah, but like going through this whole case of Chris Watts, two different, like, I mean, he might have had Asperger's for all we know, but from what we do know, we both like two different mental disabilities that show in a similar way. And for me, it's kind of scary seeing how in that interrogation, he putting myself in a situation like that, trying to go into his go into that, and I am innocent. Like seeing and understanding how things are being reacted, and then when this cop doesn't believe things and and also forcing the confession out of him, that has happened to me, not for anything like jail time or stuff. When I was in high school, I saw a cell phone on the ground, picked it up, was going to be late for class, so I was like, oh, like, I need to get to class, I'll turn this in later. Forgot about it, and was questioned by the officer at the high school for 2.5 hours until I gave up and confessed to something that I didn't intentionally didn't do. I stole the cell phone because, I mean, technically I did, but it wasn't an intentional thing. And I sat there and was questioned until I just said, fine, fuck it, if you want. And literally, I said, fine, fuck it. If you want me to admit, sure, whatever. Just let me the fuck go. Like, I didn't do anything, but sure. And I said that. And like, having someone being taken advantage of like that scares the shit out of me for something more serious than taking a cell phone on accident.
And that exact thing has happened before, which is a shame. It has happened. It has happened in the past quite a bit, back in the 50s and 60s, when mental illness wasn't fully understood and was stigmatized.
To be fair, mental illness wasn't really understood 10 years ago when this happened to me. So
that is fair. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, it's the thing about mental illness is it's always being like,
it's new.
It's always being learned. There's always new stuff coming out of it. Like, we know schizophrenia, we know bipolar, and we know depression and stuff like that, but there's always something new coming up because for each person, all those things are different.
Yeah,
so you always have something new coming out of it. But before we go into that or anything like that, because that's a whole different fucking topic.
That's a 16-week course.
Yeah, minimum.
Yeah, right.
People study fucking years for that. But
some of us even drop out of those classes.
It's just scary seeing myself in him.
Yeah, and
as being an innocent person who gets fucked over,
which is why
because of the way you act and the way you think, like the way you are perceived.
I'm excited to see the next generation of law enforcement that grew up and understands this type of thing, that understands mental illness. I'm excited to see what this generation of law enforcement does with it.
the new
is able
cops
to understand that just because someone isn't showing emotion doesn't mean they're guilty. Sometimes they just weren't raised.
It doesn't even law enforcement. It's lawyers.
It's judges.
Forensic psychologists. It's everyone.
Your peers. It's the jury.
Yeah. It's just the next generation.
Well, and
very excited to see that.
People our age have the Like, not only do I have the mental illness, I was still raised on the a man has to be this kind of thing value, which we are just now breaking away from.
I still
which
adhere
I
to
don't.
that.
Well, yeah, like I am not like I was raised. Men don't cry. Men don't cry in public. Now you add my mental illness on top of that. How the fuck do you want me to respond to things? Because I think I'm supposed to be emotionless all the time.
We're in a very weird spot,
Yes.
but we need to move on because
Yes.
we still haven't even gotten to the theories.
Wait,
So
we still have more? What the fuck?
yeah, what? Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the theories. I just asked you a fucking question.
Fuck.
So
I wish we did this on the regular podcast. One question, 30 minutes.
So there are technically 3 different confessions. So the first confession was August 15th, 2018, where he did it in front of the police, where he admitted to killing Shanann after she had killed the girls, which was obviously untrue, as they had excused and he had confessed to the next part, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Second confession follows a discovery of shadows by a prominent YouTuber. And then he contacted the FBI. After watching the CCTV footage where he saw shadows underneath Chris's truck on the CCTV footage, and then it was leaked across the internet. Chris was in daily contact with his family and knew everything that was being said about him. When the detectives made an impromptu visit to the prison, he told them he was aware of the shadows video, and then proceeded to tell them what had actually happened that night. He said he argued with Shanann, telling her he didn't love her anymore, and she threatened to stop him from seeing the kids, and in a blind rage, he strangled her. Moments later, Bella walked in and saw her mom dead. He would then proceed to wrap Shanann in a sheet, dragged her downstairs to the truck, stuffed her body into the footwell, and then put the kids in, took them to the oil field. The actual quote unquote what we actually know, quote unquote actually know that happened. The third confession was given in Sherlyn Cadle in her book, which was called Letters from Christopher. Wish I would have read it so I could have done more with this, but I just don't fucking have time to read every little bit. Chris tells her he had been planning to kill Shanann and the girls for weeks before the actual murders. He also confessed to killing the girls twice. Cadle's book was then withdrawn from sale because of some copyright issues, but she then has a new book containing these initial letters, and more is due out in November, December of 2020, and is called The Murders of Christopher Watts. If you guys would like to go read it, go read it. I don't have time to read it and then put it into this episode. So whatever you guys learn from that, congrats. Great for you. But those are the 3 types of confessions we have.
Have a wonderful, horrible time reading it.
Yeah. So first theory, pretty obvious. The theory of she actually killed the kids, and then Chris killed her. I think pretty fucking obvious that's not what happened.
What?
I don't think it. I don't know. I just don't think. I feel like something would have picked up. So a huge thing, we're going to go back to the cadaver dogs that I talked about so much in part 2. Cadaver dogs, if that would have happened, should have picked up on a scent of death somewhere, even with bleach being used. There should have been some sort of hit at some point. But also, maybe he killed them quick and got them loaded up and that fucking out. But with the shadows underneath the truck, I think personally proves that the kids were walked into the truck and into the back from the opposite side of the view of the camera.
I think the kids were killed on site.
100%.
Like at the oil place.
Same.
Agreed.
Just because the thing for me is I feel like they would have ran the cadaver dogs through. I don't know why this never didn't happen. Maybe again because the investigation was halted before it could even fucking start, type of a thing, because he confessed and did a plea deal. They should have ran the cadaver dogs through his truck, because I feel like that would have been enough time to sense death at some point, because he had like a 40-minute to an hour drive. I don't know if that's enough time, but I feel like if they would have done that pretty quickly, like a couple days or a week after, I feel like they probably could have hit on something. because he confessed like 2 or 3 days after this whole thing. And after that, I feel like you would have done something with this truck.
You'd think.
Yeah. Then we got theory 2, which is, what most people believe and what I believe is that he killed them on sight. He killed her beforehand, type of a thing. Whether it be of rage of her saying you won't ever see the kids again, or if he just fucking decided to kill her for another reason or whatever.
I like, even though it's not like the rage of passion, like she killed the kids and he killed her, I think it was still done in some kind of rage of passion. Like, she said something to flip that psycho switch in his head.
So another thing that might do something with this second theory is another thing about the CCTV footage, which is, so the affair ramped up to the next level once Shanann took the girls to North Carolina. So at some point during the next few weeks, Chris contacted Nate, which was his neighbor that did the CCTV footage, saying somebody had been tampering with his truck. Nate allowed him to check the footage and told Chris where to park in order for the truck to be covered. If you think about it, this is an important fact regardless of the theory, because now Chris knew exactly where to place his truck for the least exposure. He would see what his neighbor would see or what the cameras would capture. So he would know exactly where to park it, and whether there was an actual genuine reason behind it or if Chris was just already planning what was coming up, no one knows. So theory 3. The theory about his confession to the author, Sherilyn, I believe is how it's pronounced, but I'm kind of stupid and drunk. So one of the first things that Chris told her was that evil spirits had been around him for a few weeks before the actual murders.
There's no fucking way he actually used that. There's no fucking way. He actually... There's no way. I refuse to believe he actually pulled that.
I get one sentence into the third theory and Nick is mad.
He did not actually use that as an excuse. I refuse to believe that he did that.
Nick's going to love the rest of this paragraph.
I'm going to get so angry so fast.
He also indicated something very dark and evil had gone on in Nicole Kessinger's house, although he wouldn't expand on that other than to say...
decided to peg him while he was raw dogging Nicole. Baphomet fucking God, I'm so upset right now.
Oh, we got to the comedy. Yay.
Oh my God.
He refused.
It was probably the devil nun from The Conjuring 2. Like,
hey, by the way, the next part of Conjuring is on HBO Max right now. We should watch
is
that.
it really?
Yeah.
I might watch it tonight.
Oh, I was gonna say we should watch that together, but okay.
I'm not watching that if I'm staying at Adam's house with Jeff. I'm not. No. I'm not
all
staying
right,
with
so,
my living paralysis demon.
All right, so Chris wouldn't explain on further than that, other than to say he was ashamed of the things
Lucifer gives really good blowjobs,
and he would take those
Lucifer
details
is
to the grave.
in the DC show.
He said Kessinger had been involved in some very dark things, and as a result of that, he felt himself becoming darker and darker.
He probably thought the strap-on was a voodoo doll. I'm so mad.
I'm sitting here now contemplating, like, I wonder what would happen if you stabbed a needle in the strap-on now. Like, who screams? Like, who's that hurting if it's a voodoo doll?
Oh my God, I'm so mad.
So,
I have one of those somewhere.
A voodoo doll?
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
I went to New Orleans. I've never collected someone's hair to make it work on anyone.
Stay away from me.
So I'm going to go read
Nick, I just got to hold my hands out under your head for the hair.
I'm about to read a very long part here. So on the 14th of July of 2018, Chris invited Kessinger to his house for the second time on their way back from their trip from the Shelby Museum.
They're gonna fuck.
After playing around with Chris's dog for a while, she chased him up the stairs and had been totally shocked when she saw the photographs of Shanann and the girls. These images must have brought it home to her that she was tearing a family apart. He tried to calm her down and ended up telling her that he and Shanann had discussed having another baby in weeks before he had met Kessinger. This freaked her out by all accounts, and she supposedly told him she didn't want to be able to give him. Sorry. This freaked her out by all accounts, and she supposedly told him she wanted to be able to give him his first son. It was from this moment his plan was to cause Shanann to miscarry. On the first night he arrived in North Carolina, he wasted no time putting his plan into action. Shanann complained of a headache, and he gave her 80 milligrams of oxycodone, telling her it was an over-the-counter painkiller. He was certain he'd give her a large enough dose to cause her to lose the baby. But instead, 80 milligrams. But instead, she was up all night vomiting. I can only surmise she refused to take any more as it had made her so ill. Chris wouldn't say where he got the oxycodone from, telling Sherilyn that it was another detail he'd take to his grave. So, although Kessinger had supposedly told him to try to fix things with his wife when he was at the airport.
One more time, I'm sorry.
80.
The normal dose for an adult, first dose for an adult is fucking 9 milligrams.
Yee.
Holy shit.
So Kessinger had supposedly told him to try to fix things with his wife when he was at the airport. She had been a little snarky with him over text when he had told her he couldn't call her. She asked, "Why? Are you with her?" Rather than causing him to feel annoyed with Kessinger for the added pressure, it made him act even more cold towards Shanann. He refused to sleep with her that entire week, which left him able to spend the nighttime hours messaging Kessinger instead. We read Shanann's messages from Chris from around the time that he could sense her despair, and all the while Chris was messaging Kessinger as though he hadn't a care in the world. Fast forward to the 12th of August 2018. When Chris put the girls to bed that night, he knew it would be the last time he ever did. He said he knew what was going to happen, yet he felt powerless to stop it. He spent the day at a birthday party, played with water balloons, sang songs, prepared dinner, showered them, read bedtime stories, and all the while was in no doubt what he intended to do the following morning. So Shanann arrived home before 2 a.m. They had sex, but blah, blah, blah. His alarm sounded. He got dressed. Before going to wake Shanann, he dealt with the girls, taking a pillow off their beds. He smothered each of his daughters where they lay. Afterwards, he climbed back into bed with Shanann. Before he would have woken her to argue, or he would have just attacked her. He was scared of her after all. But he goes into detail about the argument. So basically argues with her and then smothers her. Then loaded the girls and Shanann's body into the truck, drove them to the gravesite, did blah, blah, blah. All right, everyone. So this is Jeff here. I just want to explain to you that for some reason, Drunk Nick decided to just stop the recording for some fun reason. So the basic of the end of that theory that I was just talking about is it just explains that he used evil forces basically is the reasoning behind him killing his family. But that is actually the wrap up to our Chris Watts series. 3 whole parts. We get into a lot of stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed. We do greatly appreciate the support that we've gotten going through for all of our podcasts, especially lately. You guys have been amazing. All right, and if you want to follow us on social media, in the description is our link tree. So you click on that, it'll give you the links to all of our social medias and anywhere you can find podcasts to listen to the podcast. It also has our Podbean, which is if you become a patron, you get extra stuff like unedited videos, and at the $1 tier, you get the Taskmaster special from the beginning of this year. But to wrap it up, as Nick always says, professionals have standards, and we don't. Clearly Nick doesn't, because he fucking cut off the recording. And as Adam says, we're better than you. Thank you, and we appreciate you.